One of the questions I get all the time is, how do I eat healthy on a budget? And there's some news coming out that makes this far worse. Ground beef, the cost of it and production of it is up 16%. And it's already expensive. So have you ever been to the store and tried to get a grass-fed beef, not even just regular industrial-fed, sort of grain-fed, antibiotic-pumped cows, but if you've gone and tried to get a pasture-raised, grass-fed beef, 100% organic, it's expensive. So like ground beef could cost you $10 a pound. Sometimes it's on sale for $9 a pound, maybe $11, $12 a pound. It's expensive. Steaks are even more, all that stuff. It used to be that it was slightly cheaper, and then like industrial fed cows, that ground beef would be in that $3 to $4 range. Now that's in that like $7 to $8 range. And so the prices are going up and the cost is getting more expensive. So I want to react to this video on the PBD podcast with you, and we'll just pause it and talk through what they're talking about here. Listen up.
Fast food burgers have surged in price, with the average cost of a fast food burger hitting $8.41 in mid-2024, up 16% from 2019. McDonald's Big Mac now costs $5.29, and 21% rise over 5 years as a U.S. cattle herd shrinks to a 73-year low, down 15% since 2019. Beef prices are also soaring, with ground beef reaching $5.58 per pound in August, driven by droughts and high interest rates. The beef production cycle is long and costly, taking up to 5 years from breeding to market, and current cattle numbers aren't expected to recover soon. JBS, the world's largest meat processor, notes a 15% drop in young female cows sent to slaughter, but doesn't anticipate a full recovery until 2026. Tyson Food reported in August that current data doesn't support herd rebuilding yet, signaling sustained high prices, which Daryl Peel of Oklahoma State University.
So what's happening here is we're eating beef faster than they can produce. Now they're interviewing Tyson Foods and a lot of these other companies that are raising industrial fed cows. Oftentimes these cows have their heads locked in vice grips, and they are force fed corn and grain, usually in the GMO variety. They are then pumped with antibiotics so they don't get sick as they live in these pretty horrific. If you've ever been down to, by the way, Central California, you've driven past down there, you can see some of this like in action. So you might say, well, this guy's a conspiracy theorist. No, you actually can just go see it for yourself. But these cows are treated horribly. They're living in disgusting conditions. They're often sick, and so they give them antibiotics, and so they don't get sick. What we don't know is that the stuff they eat gets passed into us. And so like these cows, they eat GMO grain, they eat GMO soy, they eat GMO corn. They eat sometimes things like city garbage, where city garbage ends up in their food areas, and they're eating this as well. And so they're eating all this stuff, they're getting the antibiotics, and then we then eat those cows. And so we're getting a lot of the disgusting things that they're eating. And so the omega-3 and omega-6 ratios are off. Their fat stores all the toxins. And so as they fatten up these cows, we then consume all of the toxins in their fat, and then that gets stored in our fat, which makes us sick, fat, and unhealthy. Well, the way they're producing cows is starting to be unsustainable. And so what's happening here is the cost of beef is going up. The cost of burgers as a result is going up. And so they're trying to figure out, like, hey, what do we do as a result of this? I think they get a little bit of an answer later on, but let's listen up.
Warns may not fall until close to 2030. Wow, Tom.
So here's what's happening. Fast food is getting more expensive, and one of the staples of fast food in America has been the burger.
Fast food's more expensive,
and so here's what the burger chains are having to do.
Yeah.
They're having to buy the lowest quality beef so they can get the best price on it, so they can still afford to make the Big Mac. The national average price in a fast food, now this is Five Guys, this is In-N-Out, this is everybody, for a quarter pound burger was $8.41, national average price. So when McDonald's is out there trying to sell that Big Mac for $5.29, they're either doing it as a loss leader, because that's just the Big Mac. You buy the Big Mac deal, it's more, and you get the French fries and the soda. So what's happening also is America is going to, two things. America is on a necessary shift to chicken, because it takes 40 days to make a chicken. You know how long it takes to make a cow? 42 months. 42 months to grow a cow before you slaughter it. It only takes 40 days to grow a chicken.
Yeah, obviously. But a chicken is far smaller, weighs far less nutritionally dense, Cows are massive. You could literally buy a cow, and a family of 5 or 6 could eat it for a year or more. But yeah, your point's taken.
And so which is faster, which takes less, resources to do. And you've got now, it's almost become delicacy where there are high-end farms now that are making like Neiman Ranch.
Grass-fed.
Like Neiman Ranch. You can get, there's these Neiman burgers. You ever heard of Neiman burgers?
No.
Nieman. You can go look them up. The Neiman burgers are showing up at like beer pubs. They're showing up at the place we used to go in Dallas at all the taps. Yard House.
Yard House.
Can I say one thing here,
You can
Tom?
go find a Neiman.
So what he's saying is, well, if you're going to eat a burger, you might as well eat something a little bit better, because there's these like boutique or whatever he called it, ranches, mom and pop, basically farms that raise their own cattle. That's the bell I think most people have been ringing on the health side of this, is following the industrial trend. It's not sustainable agriculture. It's not agriculturally sustainable. It destroys the soil with all of the way we're farming vegetation is destroying the soil. Cows, for lack of a better term, pooping on the ground in open pastures actually adds to the fertilization and adds to the health of the soil. So actually a good thing. So sustainably or regenerative agriculture, sustainably produced cattle and other animals on mom and pop farms are actually a better option, not just for human beings to eat, but also for the environment and actually even for costs. And so there's many other things related to this, but let's keep going.
Burger, but they're $17. So there is a necessary shift.
Oh yeah, and the Neiman Ranch is a popular ranch. They've got they do things like bacon and beef and things like that. I think most of it's grass fed. They do have some, I think, I guess I should fact check this, but they do have some grass fed, like grain finished animals as well.
Because fast food's not getting cheaper when it's based on beef.
Well, I think can you pull up what I just texted you? I don't know if you have it. While you're pulling it up, Adam, go ahead.
I think there's one thing we're overlooking, and that's super impressive.
With no bread, though.
We moved that on you.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Low carb. I think there's one thing we're missing, and respect for Tom for knowing that cows take longer than chickens. That's just Tom for you. But I know one thing. The minimum wage that we've talked about for years and years and years, the chickens are coming home to roost, Tom. Because when you fight for 15 and fight for 20, and basically you're paying minimum wage workers $40,000 when they used to pay them,
32,
nothing. Yeah. And all of a sudden, a 16-year-old kid is making $40,000 in California working for In-N-Out Burger, or where Pat, learned his 1s and 2s on the grill at Burger King out there, Haagen-Dazs, whatever it is. This is what happens. These are the consequences of bad policies. When you increase the minimum wage, every 16-year-old, 18-year-old kid is now making $40,000, $50,000. Of course, I
think his point's taken. I mean, the idea that, if you raise the prices or raise the wages of the workers, then necessarily the businesses are not going to just absorb those costs. They're going to pass those costs on to us. And so the consumers will end up paying the cost. And so things are going up in price because our policies, so to speak, are paying people more money, and the companies aren't just going to foot that bill. Neither are they legally required to. But it doesn't really address the greater issue, which is what's actually happening with the agriculture, and why is the agriculture why are the cows being eaten at a faster rate? Why are they not growing faster? And this has to do with a lot of the bad consumption practices we do have. And that's why I would go back to regenerative agriculture. That's why I would go back to eating grass-fed cows, pastured pigs, pasture-raised eggs, wild-caught fish, because eating the way God originally intended us to eat is actually far more sustainable and makes far more sense for our bodies. And it's far more sustainable for not only the environment, but even potentially the economy as well. Why? Well, when you eat animals that are raised as close to the way they were intended to be raised as possible, and you eat fish and eggs as the way they were originally created for us to be eating, then our satiety is actually at bay. And what I mean by that is, when you eat all of this junk food that is produced and GMO'd and wired for us to induce cravings, we are going to consume far more food than we typically do. And so if you go to McDonald's and you say, well, I'm going to eat a quarter pounder with cheese that's never frozen, blah, 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 blah. And then you're eating this bun that is basically a science experiment designed to get you to induce your cravings. And it's pumped with all this extra stuff, and you eat these French fries that are fried in this toxic oil that's been oxidized and it's been sitting there for weeks on end. You are literally wiring your body to eat more, consume more. But when you eat a grass-fed piece of steak or a grass-fed burger without the bun, and you eat wild-caught salmon, and you eat pastured eggs, and you eat these foods, your body actually is satisfied. And that's all by design. Your body's all actually satisfied by the food. And so you actually eat far less and consume far less than you do, which leads to a healthier body, which leads to a curbing of the obesity epidemic and the chronic disease epidemic. And so you don't have people over consuming like they were. You have people eating what they need. And so all of that goes together. There's another story that popped out, UC Davis Health, cancer's on the rise in younger adults. Why is cancer on the rise in younger adults? It's on the rise in younger adults because they are eating far too much junk. They're eating terrible stuff all day, every day. Ice cream and French fries and ho-hos, ding-dongs, grain-fed animals causing brain fog and chronic disease and all these things. The reason why cancer is going up in young people is because of these environmental causes, to be sure, microplastics, water quality, pollution, all these things, but also what they're putting in their bodies and putting in their bodies at a much higher clip. Now, if Bill Gates had his way, he would just tell everyone to stop eating meat and start eating meat substitutes that we can sort of grow in a lab, or even try something like, I don't know, Beyond Burger Meat, which is a medical Frankenstein concoction that kills you faster. I mean, I've seen they've made the switch to olive oil or avocado oil, and that sounds healthier to eat. Like, well, maybe avocado oil, and at face value, it might be. However, recent studies talk about 80% of avocado oil has to be cut with some version of canola oil, or is outright canola oil, because the demand for avocado oil is so high that they can't possibly produce enough avocado oil for us to be able to eat it as much as we are eating it. And so it has to be cut with something, or even if it's not, it's gone rancid in the process. You may know things like rapeseed oil, aka canola oil, soy oil, go rancid in the process of cooking, and then they bleach it, and so you can't taste the rancid nature, and that happens with avocado oil as well. So we have to be careful. What can you do? Well, things like chicken, like you mentioned, is still pretty cheap. You can still eat chicken, although it's not the best. If you can buy in bulk, I would encourage you to buy in bulk. And that will actually be cheaper as a whole. If you go to somewhere like a Rep Provisions, I'll put a link, by the way, on this for you down there. No affiliation, just a link that I would use. I personally use Rep Provisions. You can get things like grass-fed beef in bulk for cheaper, in that $6 to $7 a pound range, which is what you might pay for industrial meat. Get that ground beef a lot cheaper. Butcher box is an option. Getting bulk, going in with a family member to these mom and pop farms in your local area, and going in with 2, 3, 4 families and buying a whole cow together. It's expensive at the front end, but you're really paying far cheaper prices as a whole, getting all this different meat than if you were to go to the store, even something like Costco. So those are some options for you. You can still eat carbs pretty cheap, especially quality carbs like sweet potatoes, organic white sweet potatoes, organic yellow sweet potatoes, jasmine rice, lots of vegetables, grass-fed butter is still very affordable. But the idea that, hey, I'm going to go to a fast food restaurant and get a cheaper meal, it's cheaper, that's not even true anymore. So you can't, you've seen the viral receipt from Wendy's or something that's like $17, or it was up from McDonald's, a $17 Big Mac meal. It's too expensive to eat that junk anyway. It's not good for you. It doesn't even taste all that good, especially if you haven't eaten in a long time. So go in bulk and get some meat, some quality meat. Go to your local farmer's market and cut deals with the vendors there. There's a lot of options available on the table for you. Hope this helps.